We alkalize to realize the body is the temple, water is the source of life. We breathe in life and then we synthesize. This liquid sun will free your glands and begin to decalcify. Peer through your third eye, see through the lies and give your body what it's missing. We dehydrated, and that's the human condition. But when you clean the body and leave the body, you set yourself up to receive the body. See, it's a sharp knife, that's the water of life. It's like a sword cutting parasites down the sides. It takes a certain kind of faith to know that you're divine. And if it comes from urethra, then it's alkaline. We serve in truth, and it don't matter how weird it really gets. It's the linchpin ascended masters to initiates. We alkalize to realize. Open your mind and find you had it inside this whole damn time. We alkalize to realize. Open your mind and find you had it inside this whole damn time. You had it inside this whole damn time.
Peace and love, family. This is the Alkalise to Realize talk show. We have a veteran in the game. Boy, he's been around for decades and decades. We got Don Bennett. You've been researching health for about 45 years.
Almost half a century.
I haven't even lived that long yet. I haven't even lived that long yet. That's crazy. You've been vegan for 42.
Right.
Right? And raw vegan for 26 years. Raw,
correct.
You transitioned to raw. That's amazing. And I can imagine, you've been counseling for 16 years. So I only can imagine the amount of lives that you impacted from being, you seem like you've been an independent researcher.
Well, when you start researching, when there's no internet and there's no personal computers, no Google, none of that. Ooh. Yeah, you got to be an independent researcher. And plus, the truth is usually not in public libraries.
No,
so you really got to be an independent researcher and put feelers out there and travel around, go to meetings, and a lot of face-to-face stuff.
Wow. So us kids, then we probably like copy and pasting your stuff, if that's the case, because it seems like a copy and paste. Like a lot of millennials, they need to show the appreciation, because back then you had to literally like find the books. You had to, go to different libraries, because the internet is so new still. And
right. Well, even still, the internet today, it's up to a point now where there's a lot of great information on it. I mean, it's so easy to, you can find in 10 minutes what would have taken me weeks to find 45 years ago. But it's a double-edged sword, of course, as you probably know. There's solid, spot-on, accurate information on the internet. And there's also information that looks like it's solid and spot on and accurate, but actually in reality it isn't.
No,
so that's
sound intelligent.
Yes, it sounds like it makes sense and it sounds like it's correct, but it actually isn't. So that's why you really got to do the research and vet not just the information, but also the people giving you the information.
Right, absolutely. I'm sure that this is going to be interesting, because a lot of people on YouTube are becoming ex-vegans. And they're talking about how veganism destroyed their health when they started eating meat, which is a stimulant. They started eating meat. They started getting energy back. But before we even get into that, Mr. Bennett, of course, how did you even get into this? What was the start of your journey?
Well, and Mark, you can call me Don. All
right,
the start of my journey, I was a teenager and I saw people in my family, and some of them were living to over 100 in decent health, and other people were dying at 65 of some horrible disease. So you don't have to be a rocket scientist to realize, what's the difference here? There's got to be something that accounts for this. These are all people in my family, so it can't be genetics. I wasn't even thinking about genetics back then, but now I see, it couldn't have been genetics. What were they doing differently? They had to be doing something differently. So I just looked at the lifestyle practices of the people that were living over 100 and the lifestyle practices of the people in my family that were dying at 65 of something horrible. And I said, well, very different lifestyle practices. My grandparents who lived to over 100 just died in their sleep. they really weren't eating a lot of meat, maybe a little tiny bit, like a little bit on the side, because they came from Europe where it just wasn't plentiful. And if you could get it, it was a little bit of a side thing. So mostly they were eating a plant-based diet just because that's where they came from. Other people in my family on the other side, so to speak, were eating the typical Western diet and not getting enough exercise. And my grandparents were very active. They always were very active, didn't own a car, walked everywhere. So I learned a lot from that. And I went, so evidently it's lifestyle practices. So I'm figuring this out for myself as I went along.
Right. Wow. And it's my father's 80 years old, and he's from London, and he also is very active. Didn't have a lot of meat. He doesn't eat a lot of meat either. He used to cycle to work like about, I think, 40 miles there and back every day. Just being very active, moving the lymphatic system.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So it's just an observation of you just seeing your family and a lot of people. And this wasn't even like, again, it's getting more known now, but back then you really had to have some nice observational skills or kind of a good intuition as well.
Well, that plus you got to be able to have the insight to realize, okay, I have a long life ahead of me. I'm going to have a level of health every day that I'm alive. What do I want that level of health to be? Not just, next week, week after, month after, next year. What level of health do I want for myself near the end of my life? The last month of my life, my level of health is going to be still very important to me, just as it is today. Why wouldn't it? And it's going to be more difficult to be, spry and chipper when you're, 95. So I thought to myself, because people were talking about, oh, you got to invest for your financial future, man. You got to think about investing now, you got a good job. I'm like, well, wait, what about investing for my future health? That's got to come first. Because, look at Steve Jobs. He had all the money in the world. He lost his health prematurely. So yes. I learned to value my health. And in my counseling over the last 16 years and just dealing with people over the last 45, what I've learned, what I've observed, and you're right, I'm really super observant, is that most people don't get serious about their health until they get a diagnosis of something serious. So they don't value their health until they lose it. My philosophy is, well, don't lose it in the first place, because it's a lot harder to get it back once you've lost it than it is just to keep the good health that you grow up with.
Right. Yeah, they wait till that's why they say suffering forces you to learn.
Yes.
Learn. So, Dawn, you also so you say counselor. Are you like a psychotherapist or?
Oh no, I deal. My wheelhouse is the physiological. It's how I'm a disease avoidance specialist. So I specialize in how people can prevent ever getting a disease, basically. Right.
Okay. And in your research, what were you have names like Arnold Rett, Mr. Sheldon, I think, with
Herbert Shelton, sure.
Right. What were the pioneers that you researched when you were going to libraries? Like, who really inspired you, or more into detail, or was it from I know you spoke about your grandparents. Was there any authors that you looked?
Yeah, no, I didn't really at the time. I didn't. When I was coming up with my conclusions of what would allow me to be the healthiest me possible, I realized, okay, I should be eating what I ate 100,000 years ago. Well, that's not going to include any animals, before we were hunter-gatherers. So I should eat what I ate back then. Okay. I should be as active as I was back then. Okay, got it. It was really not hard to figure out once you realize where we came from originally. But I didn't know of Herbert Shelton. I didn't know there were any people like this who had thought along the same lines. I did try to go to the library just to look in the health section, and that was totally worthless, because that's going to tell you to eat from the 4 food groups, blah, 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 blah. So I just started, living healthfully. Then I realized, wait, I shouldn't be cooking what I'm eating, because I couldn't have cooked what I was eating 100,000 years ago. And I bet you cooking damages food, if I had to guess, because if you put your hand on a hot frying pan, you're going to damage your hand. So I wonder how much cooking damages health. So I'm going to try not cooking what I'm eating and just be logical about it. And then one of my friends saw the way I was living, just eating fruit, basically, nothing you had to cook. when you make these decisions, like I'm not going to eat anything I have to cook, what you eat is not so difficult, because if you have to cook it to eat it, well, now you can't eat it because you're not eating anything that you're cooking. So I was basically eating what we call today a fruitarian diet. And a friend of mine said, hey, you're one of those natural hygienists. I said, what is that? Like,
Oh, you didn't even know the term.
Oh, no, I never heard of the term. But of course, he was around for a long time. And he goes, yeah, those are people who, man, they eat as crazy as you do. They just eat fruit and they just drink water. And they these weirdos, man, they care about their health, man. And I'm like, well, okay.
Weirdos.
Yeah, well, that from his perspective, because he could never do that. He said, I could never live that way. I said, okay, I respect that. And he goes, and they have annual conferences, and they're having one at Hofstra University at Long Island. I think I read a couple of weeks from now. I'm like, Joe, you better not be kidding me, because if you are, you're in big trouble. So I said, really? Okay. So I went there, and there were 90 people who had been following a natural hygiene diet. And I cried. I mean, I just cried, because I assumed there'd be nobody else crazy enough to do what I was doing. Maybe other people could have figured it out, but they would have said, dang, I can't do that. But I put so much value in my health, my future health, that I said, no, I'm doing that. Whatever it is, I'm going to do it. I don't care what it is. I'll get used to it. I'll deal with it, because I want to go like my grandparents did, living to over 100, dying in my sleep. That's my goal, to die in my sleep. And so I went to this conference, and there they all were, and the food was all raw, and it was great. And who were the speakers? Dr. Joel Furman, Alan Goldhammer, Kiki Sidwa. There were, a lot of the greats were there. Now, over the years, some of them have stayed the course and stayed true to what they believed and what they knew to be true, like Alan Goldhammer. Some have not. They've kind of gone over to the dark side. And that's just human nature. That'll happen to some people and not happen to other people. So I started learning from them who they were, what were they about, because I started noticing some differences in what they were teaching. And then, well, wait, Herbert Shelton taught what? Eating some animal products and dairy? Well, wait a second. I don't agree with that. And then people would look at me and say, you don't agree with Herbert Shelton? He's the king of the blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait, my mom taught me to think with my own brain. Don't be thinking with other people's brains. And my brain is just as good as other people's brains who have ever lived. And don't let anyone tell you different. That's what she would tell me. I'm like, okay, well, I believed her. She's not going to lie to me. So I'm like, I can question Herbert Shelton. What are you talking about? I can question T.C. Fry. I can question anybody. It's just a question. It's just a question. I'm just questioning. So, and then I'm talking with Joel Furman about it. And he's like, well, back then they didn't know what we know today about certain things. They had certain assumptions based on some observations, based on some, the logic of the times. Today we know different. Plus, look, the dairy products today are not the dairy products of what they were 80 years ago. It's not the dairy my grandparents consumed. It's a whole. So even if it was good for you, the dairy products today have a lot of bad crap in it. So now it's not good for you. Hopefully we can get what the dairy supposedly provided from someplace else without the bad crap. But that's another way of looking at things. So I continued to study and research. Now that I found these people, found the books from Herbert Shelton, my library was like, 5 feet wide with all the books from Herbert Shelton, all the booklets from T.C. Fry, everything that anybody was reading. I was just gathering it up, and I started, to see, well, wait, that doesn't really square with what I think reality is. This requires more research on my part. Who's wrong, me or Herbert Shelton, me or whoever I was reading? I wanted to find out, and I just kept going and going and going. And so, it's, even though I've been researching for 45 years, of course, I'm still open to learning. A health educator has a responsibility to continue, to do continuing education, so to speak, to peer with his peers, to keep an open mind. First, do no harm. That's the oath that we all take, whether we raise our hand to it or not. First, do no harm, because we're not counseling people on how to do pottery making, man. We're counseling people on how to be as healthy as they can be. That's what they want to know. So it's a huge responsibility. That's why I didn't start teaching for a very, very long time. I wanted to make absolutely sure that whatever I taught was 100%. I knew I didn't have all the answers, and you don't, I don't, nobody does. The T.C. Fry didn't, nobody does. But all the answers that we have need to be accurate. And that's what I try and impress upon my colleagues when I see that they're teaching something that's not correct, which I know to be not correct. It's not my opinion. This is objective fact. So I share it with them and say, hey, I would guess you'd want to know about this. And some do, and some thank me for it because they're like me. They want to teach accurate information to the people they counsel. But some are like, no, you're wrong. What I'm teaching is 100%. And they dig in, they double down. I'm like, why are you doing this? And someone else explains, well, they're just afraid of losing their credibility. If they admit they were 180 degrees wrong about something, especially something so important like nutrition, for example, they're afraid they might lose credibility. So they're just going to stay the course. I say, yeah, but they're teaching something that's been shown, it's been proven now to be wrong. Why would they do that? They're teaching health creation and stuff. And so I've learned a lot about how to be healthy and why people teach what they teach. I've written so many articles on why certain educators teach what they teach, why people failed to thrive on the raw vegan diet and went back to animal and their health improved. Well, why does that happen? People assume that, well, I guess all those anti-vegans were right. I guess we're not really designed to be vegan because look what happened to me. I'm like, yeah, well, maybe there's another explanation. Well, yeah, Don, like what? Like, what if you change from the typical Western diet, which has a lot of fortified food in it. It's a crappy diet, but they do fortify the foods with B12 and D and iodine and other things. So now you go to a raw vegan diet, the other end of the spectrum. That food ain't fortified with anything. It's just fruit, let's say, right? And what if that fruit isn't even grown in great soil, which a lot of it isn't? Okay, so now you're switching to technically the healthiest diet, the most perfect diet for human beings, but the foods of that diet are not perfect, are not healthy, weren't grown in great soil, and there's no fortification. And now no one told you to be careful now to get enough sunshine, plus you live in New York or Canada and you can't get powerful enough sunshine all year round. And you're still eating garlic? Well, yeah, I just have a little bit of garlic. I eat a raw food diet. I'm vegan, but I have a little bit of garlic. Okay, so now your body isn't going to make any B12 or enough B12 for you. So no one's telling you that, did they? Well, no. Well, you've got to be careful with B12 because it used to be they used to spray, they still do, they spray B12 on the cereal as it goes into the box at the packaging plant. So that's how people were getting their B12. Now they're not eating cereal anymore. And there's really no B12 in the plants they're eating. They wash their food really good. So there goes any B12 that might have been on the food.
Yeah.
So now where's the B12, where are you getting your B12 from? So very slowly over time, that storehouse of B12 that they had gotten from their super crappy diet now starts to go downhill and they start to have issues. Health issues after 4 or 5 years being on the perfect diet. And they're like, well, I guess the vegans were right because they're telling me go back. And so when they go back to their typical Western diet or to the animal products, which, they give chicken feed, they put chicken into the chicken feed, they put iodine just before the chickens come out to start eating it. And you got to put it in just before they come out because the iodine will evaporate pretty quickly. So when they put the chicken feed out for the chickens to eat, they lace it with the iodine so the chickens can be healthy and fight infection because they don't want their chickens dying. The chickens make them money. So that's another way we get the iodine. The dairy industry washes their vats out with iodine as a disinfectant. That's another reason why you get iodine on the typical Western diet eating that crappy food. But now you go to the raw food diet and all the fruits and greens are grown in soils that are iodine deficient. Well, then you're going to become deficient. Now, you're not going to die right away. You're just going to have a very poor immune system now. So that's why people get a lot of viruses. So speaking of viruses nowadays, right? So all my clients that I've been counseling with for years, like they're emailing me now. I'm so glad I counseled with you, man, because now my iodine levels, I keep checking, make sure they're up there, and I'm going to have great protection against viruses because that's one of the things iodine does in the body is help the body protect against viruses. So, God, I've learned so much over the last 45 years.
Wow, I got a lot of questions now. Wow, that's a wealth of knowledge. So that is a big thing that people don't think about. How? Because the way we grow food, especially we keep plowing into the soil eventually becomes depleted, and then it's like I know that permaculture and the way nature grows things is random, but when you just have this monocrop and you just keep plowing into the soil, that's why they have to put in the fertilizers and stuff like that. But again, even the fruits we eat are kind of processed in a sense. It's not like how it would have been, right? Like back in the day. So, Dawn, what would you, for example, B12 deficiency, right? Or iodine deficiency, like what is a good application?
Well, what I always say, first things first, because I'll preface this by saying some of my colleagues, they'll say, you know, they're not into supplements. They don't think we need them really. So they say, well, you don't really need supplements. And then someone will ask them during the Q&A, well, what about B12? And they'll say, okay, if you think you have a B12 deficiency, sure, okay. That could be a very damaging thing. Take a B12 if you think you have a B12 deficiency. And I try pointing out to my colleagues that this is bad advice. The first thing you want to say is, if you think you have a B12 deficiency, test to see if you have one. Because
Right.
if you don't have one, don't take any B12. That's crazy. Plus, if you're having issues and you think it's because of B12 deficiency, but it isn't, and you don't test and you start taking B12, you're not helping yourself. Your problem is going to start getting worse and worse and worse. So testing is always the first thing you can do. Now, we don't have great tests for a lot of things, but we fortunately have great tests for the most problematic nutrients. I call them problematic because they're the ones that are hardest to get, most people are deficient in, and they can cause the most damage to the body. That's D, B12, and iodine. So testing is always first. And then I have 2 articles on my website on how to deal with if you find that you're low in D or low in B12, how to deal with it. I tried writing one for iodine, but I can't because it's too complicated. And too many people wind up in the hospital when they try and doing that. You can't wind up in the hospital for doing it yourself with D and B12, but you definitely wind up in the hospital and damaging your thyroid if you try doing iodine and you try listening to some of the iodine stuff that's on the social media and some of these, even in an iodine group that's devoted to iodine. I've been in there and I've seen some of the suggestions and they're like, whoa, wait, you're not even dealing with the person's selenium level. That's really dangerous. Their body could make too much hydrogen peroxide. So even some of the people with the best intentions have the wrong information. So iodine, you should deal with it with counseling from an iodine literate practitioner like myself. And you can do it from anywhere around the world. I have clients all around the world doing it. And right now, again, they're emailing me. Hey, I'm very happy, man. I'm in Italy and they're canceling all the games and everything. Coronavirus is all over the place. I'm doing fine so far, you know. So they're thankful that their iodine level is up there. But here's the thing on D, right? A lot of practitioners, even medical doctors, bless their hearts, will say, okay, I've tested your vitamin D and you're at, 18. That's bad. That's low. Oh, well, doctor, what should I do? Well, take a B12, take a D supplement. Go to the store and get a D supplement and take it. Now, everyone would say, well, that's the correct recommendation, isn't it, Don? I used to think so, but I learned differently. No, it's not. That's the worst thing you can do is to take a D supplement. And people are like, well, why is that the worst thing you can do? Well, because when sunshine shines on your skin, yeah, it makes vitamin D in your skin. The sunshine has to be strong enough, of course. But when strong enough sunshine shines on your skin, it makes D in your skin. And I wondered one day, does it make anything else? This is the kind of guy I am. I wonder about this all the time. I have nothing else to do, so I wonder. So I said, does it make anything else? Let me go see. Just because D is the only thing in a D supplement doesn't mean that that's the only thing that sunshine makes, because there's a huge disconnect and a lag of time between research and discovering things and when it works its way into a supplement and into the medical doctor's offices, if it works its way into the medical doctor's offices at all. So I started doing research. I'm like, oh yeah, look at this. It makes D-sulfate, cholesterol sulfate, very important for vegans. Look at this. It makes nitric oxide. It makes beta endorphins. Oh yeah, beta endorphins, the feel-good thing. That's why not enough sunshine, you get seasonal affective disorder. Yeah, well, that's right. And I knew that came from the sun. Dang, duh, right? So I'm like, okay, so that's why taking a D supplement is not a good idea, because it doesn't have those other nutrients. And some of them, D-sulfate is even found to be more important for the immune system than D. But it's going to take another 10 years until we see it in the supplements. Well, you want to hang out for 10 years? No. So people say, well, then what do I do? Are there supplements for the other things? Well, nitric oxide, yeah, but not for D-sulfate, cholesterol sulfate, beta endorphins, not really. But I'm thinking, okay, wait a second. Don't they have those plant lights to help the plants grow, to give the plants that are grown indoors the equivalent of sunlight? Well, can't I just use one of them? And I started doing researching. I'm like, well, duh. They have ones for human beings too, but you're not going to see it advertised on TV, because that's good for our health. And you don't see things advertised on TV that are really good for our health. You see super beta prostate, and you see go to your medical doctor, get your flu shot. And those things are not really in our best interest health-wise. So there are things called phototherapy devices. It's just a light box, and there's one that's just like this big, and there's one that's a 6 foot tall one. It depends how much you can spend on them. So that's what you use. You don't have to be in front of it for like an hour. It's just like a 5-minute treatment once a day. And that gives you the equivalent of what good, strong, proper sunshine would give you in equatorial regions.
Wow.
So that's why my clients are buying those, getting those. I don't sell them. I refuse to sell anything that I recommend because I don't want people thinking, oh, you're just recommending it because you sell it and you make
Right.
money from it.
They try to
So-
discredit.
Right, on that basis. So I
Yeah.
stopped selling everything that I sell, but I said, well, that's not really fair to me either. I'll keep one thing. I'll keep one thing that no one can say anything about, and that's a rebounder. So I love selling the rebounders. But you know what? You don't really need a rebounder if you just get out and you walk in a spirited fashion with a little bit of a spring in your step. So if while you're walking, a lot of people do walking and they're just, it's a missed opportunity because they're just walking. So their head is not really bouncing up and down very much. But if you walk a little slower and get a spring into your step, now you're getting more of a bounce in your step. Now you're moving the lymphatic fluid more, and now you don't need a rebounder. But for those people who live in rainy areas or don't have the time to do walking, they want to be able to get on a rebounder and just bounce up and down while they're watching their favorite show or on the phone, whatever. Okay, then for those people, you get a rebounder because it's great for the lymphatic system. So that's the only thing I sell. So anything else I recommend, the supplements, the phototherapy device, I just show you where to go. You can see it's not an affiliate link. And therefore, you know, why else would I be recommending it unless I really thought it was really, really helpful because I'm not benefiting it from it at all.
Yes, exactly. And a rebound is what? Is that the little trampoline thing or?
Yeah.
That's what that is. Okay, shoot, I want to get one of those for my father because
No, they're great. Now, but even when it comes to those, I've researched them. Sure, you can get it for $75 in Walmart, but your body won't like it because the first one I got was that one. And I'm like, I don't really like this. My body didn't like it, so I didn't like it. I'm like, all right, rebounding is out. I don't care what they say about it. This is uncomfortable. But then some said, oh no, man, you got a cheap rebounder. Invest like $250, $300 in a really, really good rebounder, and you'll like it. I'm like, all right. So I looked, I researched, I found a company that sold them. I got one. I'm like, night and day. And I used to do rebounding classes where I have both rebounders there, the cheap one from Walmart and the $300 one. And I'd say, try this one and then try this one. And everyone would, it didn't matter which one they tried first. When they went to the other one, they were like, oh man, what a difference. So yeah, that's comfortable. Old people can use it because you just put the rebounder right up against the wall and they can just put their hands on the wall to help steady them. You don't really even have to spend the $90.
okay, help steady them.
Bar.
Right.
Yeah, because some people's balance when they get older is not that great. So they just put their hands on the wall, or you can just go to Home Depot, get a towel rack. You don't need to buy the bar that clips onto the rebounder for $90. You just go get a $20 towel rack bar at Home Depot and bolt that on the wall so they can hold on to the towel rack bar as they bounce up and down. And now they have perfect stability.
Wow. Okay. All right. And you sell this on your website?
No, I have a page that tells you all about rebounding and the benefits to lymphatics. And then there's the link to the one that I recommend. And again, it's not an affiliate link. It's just a link. just takes you there.
Okay.
Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. The rebounder. Yeah, no, the rebounders I do sell.
Yeah, you said that's the one thing that you
one
have.
item I do sell. Yeah, everything else is no affiliate links. I send you the link to go to their website. But again, even if you don't buy it through me, just make sure you buy that particular brand of rebounder. You can buy it directly from the company, but if you buy it from them, when you buy it from me, I give you my tips from using rebounders.
I'll get it from you because that's how I know about it from you, because it's funny you say this, Don, because I just was telling my father, to go for a walk, because he just was, I said, I need to move your lymphatic system, so he actually started going for a walk outside, getting sunlight. But I think he does walk like how you say with the bounce. So it's interesting that you bring that up. I definitely, probably within a month or two, more than likely I'll get that I'll show him this video too.
Yeah, there's an article on my website, health101.org. It's called Spirited Walking. I think it's in the main article section. It's just about how to walk with spirit, with a spring in your step, with a bounce. And then everybody says the same thing. I've been doing this for a while, man. The other day I was doing it. I felt so good. I started whistling. I've heard that from more than one people. I started whistling. But people then started staring at me, but they didn't care either. So the better you feel, the less you care about what others think about you. I like that. Yeah,
that's true. Wow. And Don, you have books or it's just like long articles? Do you have like books and stuff, right?
No, I have tons of articles that I've sent, and some of the articles if you go to them, you're gonna go, man, this web page is from the year one. It's from back from the days of the dinosaurs. That's because I wrote them when the internet first started, and they first said you can have your own website. I'm like, really? People can have their own website? Boom, Health 101. I wanted to get health101.com, but someone beat me to it. So I got
Okay, right.
health101.org. I missed by a couple of days, but anyway, so it's health101.org. But yeah, tons of articles from way back, tons of recent articles too, with the more stuff I found out about the correct way to get enough vitamin D and all the rest of the sunshine provided nutrients in your body if you can't get enough sun. But then I said, you know what? I'm really trying to help the mainstream public learn about how meat and dairy are bad for you. Really, you're being taken advantage of. Do you like being taken advantage of? No one likes being taken advantage
Yeah.
of, but you're being taken advantage of for the sake of profit and at the expense of your health. And that's the worst part about it. So I decided to write a book for the mainstream public that would just, the first 7 chapters have nothing to do with diet, have nothing to do with exercise or sunshine. It's just to help people change their perspective on their health, get them to value their health. Because if you don't value your health, you're not going to listen to anything about better diet. You have to value your health first. So that's what the first 7 chapters deal with. And this book has been on the Barnes and Noble 10 bestseller list table, that they have. Not because it was on the New York Times bestseller list. It's just because I brought 10 copies in and snuck it in and put it on the table. But that's a little thing that I do. I love doing that. And I've sent copies to, politicians, to Elon Musk, people who really need, I think, to take care of their health because they're helping the planet, they're helping us. So they need to take care of, I can see certain things like, oh, he's not in really good health, or he's under, Elon Musk, man, he's under a lot of stress. He needs to read my book. So I've shared my book with a lot of people. So that was the first book. And I thought I would never have to write another book. But then once I started seeing all the misinformation in the vegan community, because I just had this assumption that in the regular community, yeah, tons of misinformation. You need dairy in your diet. You need to eat meat.
Yeah, that's you.
All incorrect. All incorrect. But there's tons of great people teaching that stuff about how it's incorrect. So I don't need to really write anything about that, even though I eventually did, because I wanted to have a book that didn't start with meat is bad for you. Oh, you start a book like that, man, you're going to blow them away. You're going to blow them out of the water. So you have to start the book with, do you care about your health? Really? Pick a number between 1 and 10. How healthy do you want to be if 10 is the healthiest? Oh, you picked 10? Oh, well, here's what you have to do to be at a 10. If you only care about being at a 5, well, now you can drink booze every day and smoke cigarettes, So I just want to, get them to think about their health. But in the raw community and the vegan community, I'm like, wow, there's tons of misinformation here too. From well-meaning people. It's different now. Now it's from well-intentioned, well-meaning people, but they just got miseducated, or they're not teaching people about, be careful now that you're vegan with D and B12 and iodine. A lot of it isn't being told. There's a lot of misinformation. And then I started finding the charlatans. I'm like, dang, they're here too? They're here too? Not as much as in the mainstream community for the mainstream diet, but yeah, they're in the vegan community too, man. It's unfortunate, but human nature is what it is. So I said, man, I got to write another book. I don't really want to write another book. And my friend said, well, wait a second. You've been answering questions online and in social media forums for like 8 years now. Didn't you tell me you keep a record of the questions and a record of your answers because you keep getting asked the same questions over and over again? So I realized instead of me typing the same answer over and over again, let me just collect the questions, collect my answer, and put them in a file. So when I see someone asking the question again, I can go, because my answers are never 1 or 2 sentences, man. My answers are very thorough. So they can be a nice chunky paragraph. So I would just copy and paste, like you talked about before, the copy paste generation. I would copy and paste my answer to the question that I just got asked again and just boom, put it in there. So my friend said, hey, you kept a record of all these questions and your answers. Ain't that a book? I'm like, wow, yeah, let me see. Man, that's a 200-page book. Look what I got. So I picked 200 of the best questions that I've been asked over like a 10-year period and just turned it into a book. So that book took me like just a week, not even to write because I already had written it over the last 10 years. So it just took a week to put it all together into a nice format, make a nice cover for it. So boom, that was my second book. It's just called a Q&A book about the raw vegan diet.
Okay, all right.
Okay, now I don't have any more books to write. Now there's nothing else to write. But then I started seeing a lot of the harmful misinformation, really super harmful misinformation in the raw vegan diet world, where the main one is, you might have heard this, we don't need any supplements at all. We just need to eat fruits and greens or
Yeah.
fruits and
Oh,
vegetables, and we'll get enough of all the nutrients that we need. Well, I thought that too, because it was an assumption, but I always question my own assumptions. I said, wait, what do I have to back that up with? Well, really nothing. It's just what a lot of people are saying. It's a lovely notion, but just because it's a lovely notion and I'd love to believe it, doesn't mean it's true. Let me go research it. And as it turns out, I found the world's leading expert in soil nutrition, Don Weaver. We had a long discussions and I realized, okay, no, not true. Okay. So I tried talking to those practitioners that taught, once you start eating fruits and vegetables, you don't have to worry about nutrition. It's the other people that have to worry about their nutrition. It's your neighbor who's eating the typical Western diet. I'm like, well, no, in some ways, not really. In some ways, he's getting DB12 and iodine, and we ain't. So, no, you're not right about that. Well, I disagree, Don. Wait, how can you disagree with something that is objectively? So it just drove me nuts. So I finally had to write a third book. Now, it's not a very thick book. It's a very thin book, but it's the book of all the misinformation that I found in the raw vegan community. So that's a book that's important for all raw vegans to have. And I've had it updated, of course, with information about why you fail to thrive on a raw vegan diet over a number of years. And then you find that introducing animal products and the foods you used to eat back into your diet, now your health returns, it bounces back a little bit. Why that happens. And don't assume that we're not designed to be vegan, because we still are. So there's got to be another reason for it. And here's the reason. It has to do with supplementation. And some people say, I don't like supplementation. I said, yeah, but dude, you went back to this old diet and that's what you're doing. You're supplementing on animal products. That's what you're basically doing. You're supplementing with animal products. Why not supplement with vegan stuff instead of non-vegan stuff if you're going to supplement? And they're like, wow, I never thought about it that way. Is that what I'm doing? Yeah, and here's why. The chickens with the iodine in the feed and the animal tissue and blah, 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 blah. So they said, all right, well, let me try. What's a vegan equivalent? I show them what it is. In fact, here it is. Ta-da.
DailyGreenBoost.
DailyGreenBoost. Long story behind that one, but so in talking to Don Weaver, and he's telling me about the health of, now this guy, Don Weaver, wrote Congress many, many years ago, telling him about the upcoming problems we're going to be having with the nutrition of our fruits and vegetables, which is what we're really supposed to be eating. But even if you just eat a typical Western diet, but you just get more fruits and vegetables in your diet, still, if those fruits and vegetables are grown in crappy soil, we got problems. So he wrote Congress. Nothing, of course, was ever done about it. Even though the USDA acknowledges that the amount of nutrients in the soil today compared to just 50 years ago is a lot less, they're still not doing anything about it. And Congress, Congress ordered about 80 years ago to add iodine to the diet because people were iodine deficient and people walking around with these big goiters on their necks. And, when anything happens like that, the public turns to government and says, hey, what's going on here? Help us. You're there. They're supposed to be helping us. What's with this epidemic of this? So they realized, oh, it's not enough iodine. People have iodine deficiencies. Why is that? Oh, it's not enough iodine in food. All right, the government says, put iodine in the diet. Figure out how to do it. The scientists said, all right, the best thing to do it, everyone uses table salt. Iodine will combine well with the chloride in the table salt, sodium chloride. So they ordered all salt manufacturers to add iodine to the salt. So 80 years ago, iodized table salt and no more goiter. Yay. It wasn't enough iodine to have whole body tissue sufficiency of iodine, so that you have a really strong immune system, but at least no more goiter. That's all the government cared about. Great. Now, you're going to tell me the government today doesn't know that lots of people are no longer using table salt? Of course they do. Have they put out an order to the food industry saying, okay, lots of people aren't using table salt anymore, put it into something else? Because we're starting to see problems with more hypothyroidism, with IQ levels going down, because of a mother gives birth to a baby and she had a low iodine level. The baby's going to have a lower IQ than a mother giving birth to a baby that had a higher iodine level. And the government, look, I'm not the brightest bulb on the tree, Mark. If I know this, they know this, and they're not doing anything about it. Now, could it be because of the influence today that the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry has on government, saying, no, just be quiet about the iodine. Let's see where this goes. They know where it's going. The hypothyroidism going up. They're writing more prescriptions for thyroid medications and antibiotics, more antibiotics. Did you know 80 years ago, medical doctors wrote prescriptions for iodine? That was the antibiotic of choice. They wrote a prescription for iodine pills. I got a box. My grandpa had it. It's a box of iodine pills. And it worked great. but you can't patent iodine because it's like vitamin C. It's like, it's an essential nutrient. It's a
Yeah,
natural
you
nutrient.
can't make money off it.
You can't make money off it. So the pharmaceutical industry, when they were small and fledgling, they said, all right, doctors, no more. We've got this thing now. We're making antibiotics. You got to prescribe these antibiotics. And now we're going to invent thyroid medication for when the thyroids start going bad, because, you know, we're telling you stop, no more prescribing iodine pills. The doctors weren't too happy about that, but, you know, what are they going to do? You don't want to lose your medical license. So that was 80 years ago, not today. So now we have these issues. So I think I've effectively gotten way off track. But anyway, so I wrote this book, the third book, about all the misinformation that's in the raw vegan community. Because look, a lot of people become vegan for ethical reasons. And I even know some of them who smoke cigarettes. They don't really care about their health. They don't exercise. They don't get enough sleep, but they're vegan for ethical reasons. And I understand that, and that's great. But a lot of people become vegan and eat a vegan diet, I should say, because they really care about their health.
Yes.
So that's how they come to it. So, and that's the kind of people I deal with a lot, or come to the events. But you know what? You do that, you come to a vegan diet that way, and you never thought about the animals before, but now you start getting healthier, you start hanging out with other vegans from all areas of life, and you start realizing, oh my God, those poor animals. I never thought, I'm not wearing leather anymore. So you can still come to the same place, just through, you know, through a different route, basically. And that's fine, that's fine. But my point is, the people who do care about their health, who go vegan and raw vegan, you need to know about this stuff, because it doesn't look good for us. It doesn't look good for vegans, first of all. If you care about the animals and you care about your health, if your health starts going downhill after 4 or 5 years, other people look at you and go, hey, look at you. You were talking about veganism is so great. It's been 5 years now. Your health is now going downhill. So I guess, and look at me, I'm still doing fine, because they're still eating the typical Western diet that's fortified with all those things like B12 and iodine. So it's incumbent upon vegans who are ethical vegans, first and foremost, that even if they don't care about their own health, hey, have good health so you can be a good example to others to say, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, look, veganism does work. Look how healthy I am. I'm a way healthier than you. And they could say, yeah, you're right. I'm going to check out this vegan diet. So that's the point I'm making about it. It all comes back to the same thing. We need to care about all the animals. You know, PETA is People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I wrote them a letter and said, can you change your name to People for the Ethical Treatment of All Animals? And people will go, all animals? All. Yeah, because we're animals too. We should be caring about ourselves. I mean, the cows probably care about us. You have a dog that loves you. You love the dog loves you. The dog cares about you. Your dog wants you to have good health. If your dog could understand that eating the dairy products and the meat and not getting into exercise, the dog would be, you know, taking a book off the shelf or something and bringing it over. You could read it. Or he'd point on the screen, Don Bennett's book, get Don Bennett's book, or something like that. You know, they care about you. So if they care about you and you care about them, you know, that's all I'm saying.
Right. Boy, there's a wealth of knowledge here. This conversation so needed. It's needed badly, because I do have a few people on Facebook that say, you know, I'm ex-vegan. The minute I started eating this, I got my energy back. You know, so I would the name is your books from your website, or are they on Amazon? Because I'd like to post the books.
Well,
I read them first.
I'll get you some colleague complimentary copies of them. But I wanted to put my books on Amazon. My first book, I wanted to put on Amazon, and I was advised not to. You'll understand when you read the book, because there was a book written by, do you know Robert Cohen, the Not Milk Man? He's called the Not Milk Man. He's the world's leading expert on the hazards of consuming dairy products. He wrote a great book called Milk, the Deadly Poison. Whoa, Milk, the Deadly Poison. And it was in hardcover, and it was in Barnes and Noble. And I'm like, we're all cheering, man. Milk, the Deadly Poison made it into Barnes and Noble. He got it in there. It was in there for 2 weeks, and it was pulled. Because someone finally said, well, someone figured out something and said, wait a minute, this can't be in here. So then it was pulled, and that's it. So then he could only sell it on his website. But he was vociferous, speaking out about Milk, the Deadly Poison. Well, he got run over. He got in an auto accident. He got run over, and
oh, fuck.
And it wasn't an accident. Let's just put it that way. So he was in a full body cast. He was this close to death, and just by a miracle, but the thing is, he had this planned out. He knew this was a possibility. So he told his daughters, listen, anything ever happens to me, here's articles I've written that I haven't posted yet. So I got a whole ton of articles. So it's going to be like, even though I'm gone or whatever, you can still post articles in my name. Just be very careful. Use the thing where the IP address can't be VPN. Use a VPN so your IP address can't be tracked. But keep my e-newsletter alive. And they're like, yeah, Dad, no. Yeah, we will. So that's what happened. They did. So the attempt to silence Robert Cohen did not work, because it was just still like he was still, even though he's in a full body cast and can't do anything, he kept writing, and they reposted other earlier articles from way back. So, it's stupid to try and do things like that. So I was going to put my book on Amazon, but since my book is full of a lot of Robert Cohen's information and the hazards of dairy products, people said, you know what, you're more valuable to us alive than not. So maybe don't put it on Amazon, just sell it on your website, make it available on your website, and people can get it. The people who really, really want it, they'll be able to get it. So I was a little bit of a chicken, or a coward, I should say, in that respect. But again, it's in lots of bookshelves in health food stores. There's no question about that. You go in a lot of health food stores around the world, and it's sold in a lot of the health food stores on their bookshelves. But I don't know really how much of a benefit it would be if it was on Amazon. There's billions of books on Amazon. So the point is ease of finding it. Well, you can just easily get it from my website, just as easy as Amazon. Well, maybe not as easily as Amazon, but you can still get it from my website.
And 3 books, correct?
Yeah, I got 3 books.
You have Q&A. Then the third one is just on the raw vegan myths.
Yeah, it's called What You Know That Ain't So.
What You Know That Ain't So. That's okay. That's really gonna, I feel like.
Well, that was the original name, and then I was advised to change it to What You Know That Isn't So. I said, all right. I like to write the way I speak, but okay. I understand the point was made, so I changed the title. But yeah, it's a really thin book, and hopefully one day it'll be a lot thinner, because the misinformation. And man, I've been trying over the years to do more peer-to-peer work with my colleagues, so that we can all be on the same page when teaching this information. But a lot of people, especially a lot of alternative practitioners, are very independent, and they start out as islands unto themselves, because
they don't treat it like it's like how we should all meet up at conferences.
Exactly, we should have our own conferences.
That's what they do with the medical mafia. They meet up and put up deadly poisons and agree, okay, well, that's how we can lower the population. Like, I think you're right. It seems like, because even like with you passing on this knowledge, me getting your books, which I will get, it puts me on game, because it really does make a lot of sense. And because your book seems to be so thorough and detailed compared to the others, it could cause some type of controversy where, they seeing that you actually providing solutions, because they love it when those ex-vegans coming back to meat and dairy. They fucking love it.
Oh, of course.
Lord. So they can let these people that currently putting out this raw vegan stuff, and they know there's some things missing.
Well, yeah, but I will have to say this about medical doctors, because I've met a lot of them. I mean, there's one medical doctor, Dr. Arelli, medical doctor, but she's raw vegan, and she teaches raw vegan as an MD. So we're starting to make some breakthroughs in that area.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, which is great. But most medical doctors, not all, but most, become medical doctors because they really do want to help people. And then over time, they realize, oh man, I'm just kind of basically a salesperson for the pharmaceutical industry. And they get very depressed. That's why the abuse of antidepressant meds are highest among medical doctors. Not because they have ease of access to them, because they're so dang depressed, because they realize that their hands are being tied. They can't teach the best things to do to deal with cancer. They have to teach, or recommend rather, chemotherapy and radiation therapy. But some of them, have come to realize, wait, there's better non-toxic things that don't tank the immune system, that are more effective. But I can't do it. I'll have my medical license pulled. So a lot of them just get very depressed over it, or they try to sneak in the good information on the side. So I don't want to just lump all medical doctors into this evil category. So some of them are. Some of them, like the medical doctor who was diagnosing people with cancer, but they didn't have cancer. But he showed them, the MRIs and things that said, see, that's a little tumor there, but they didn't have a tumor. He just wanted to be able to have them do chemotherapy as an outpatient basis in his office, because he made money off chemotherapy. Did you know, Mark, that medical doctors in the United States are not allowed to make a commission off the prescriptions they write, with one exception, in-office chemotherapy.
Oh,
What? Why is that accepted? And then you have doctors doing that, telling people they have cancer, and now you got to do the chemotherapy. They do the chemotherapy, get paid by the insurance company, and then test them again, MRI them again, and say, oh, look, your tumor is gone. And they're like, oh, doctor, thank you so much.
wow.
You saved my life. And the doctor's just ripping them off. Now, a couple of them are in prison because they were found by accident by like
A
a husband saying,
whistleblower. There was a
well,
whistleblower.
no, it wasn't a whistleblower. It was just like an accident of the person also getting an MRI. Well, wait, this MRI from this other doctor showed you didn't have a tumor. How is two MRIs from like a week apart, one showing a tumor with this doctor and one showing, so the husband would get involved and try and figure it out. That's how that one guy got caught, because the husband was like, I don't know about this guy. He seems shady to me. And then he realized that he did that, and FBI came in or whatever, and the DEA, whoever, I think it's the FDA at that point, came in, raided the office, looked at the records, and saw what he was doing. There was just not misdiagnosing. He was, on purpose diagnosing people with cancer so he can make money off the chemotherapy, because it's the one drug that doctors are allowed to make money off, the profit off.
One drug.
The one drug, if it's done in their own, office.
In their own
office.
office.
So that's just an example of how corrupt the whole pharmaceutical and medical industry can be. And look, if you have a guy who's like a sociopath and he happens to become a sanitation worker, okay, what's the worst he's going to do? He's going to throw your empty container back on your lawn and not stand it up nice. But if you have a sociopath that becomes a doctor, oh, now you got the doctor telling you have cancer, you don't have cancer. But that's a small minority of the medical doctors out there. Again, most of them really care. They really want to help, because a lot of the people I counsel are already working with medical doctors, are already working with endocrinologists dealing with diabetes and thyroid issues. Then they find me and they discover that, oh, I can get rid of my diabetes because my doctor said all I can do is manage it, type 2 diabetes. And I'm like, no, there is a way to get rid of it. Well, I'm mad at my doctor. And I'm like, no, you can't be mad at your doctor. He's not taught it. He or she does not know. So you can't get mad at somebody. They're not born with the information they have. They're taught it. And if they're not taught the other ways of dealing with diabetes other than just the meds, managing it, you can't really get mad at them. You can try and educate them. And you know what, Mark? Some listen and some like, I can't hear you. I can't hear what you're saying. So there's the medical doctors really care. And like, really? You got rid of, let me test you again. Wow. So you're not taking your insulin anymore and your diabetes is gone? How'd you do that? Well,
how'd you do that?
And now they have to be careful, of course, because they can't just start doing that with the rest of their patients. They'll lose their medical license if they're turned in by the anti-whistleblower, the other kind of whistleblower that maybe thinks they're doing the right thing, but really in reality isn't. All this woo stuff the doctor is now doing. Maybe the doctor's office manager turns the doctor in to the AMA or something, right? That's happened. But it's just because the office manager didn't realize that the doctor was really helping people with better stuff to get rid of the type 2 diabetes. The office manager thought the doctor went over to the woo side or something. So I work with a lot of clients who are already under the care of medical doctors, and I give them what to say to the medical doctor. And man, the responses you get are in those two basic camps. Like, really? Okay, well, yeah, if it's working for you, keep doing it. And then the doctors say, no, you're going to kill yourself listening to that guy. Who is that guy? He doesn't have a medical license. He needs to have his medical license taken away. And I told him, well, tell the doctor if I ever get one, then he can take it away.
If you ever get one, yeah.
But then and there's the doctors that are like, oh, really? Tell me more. And I've met them. Like one doctor, a quick, you can edit this out if you want, but it's just a great analogy I love. I used to work at the phone company a long, long time ago, and then you had to get your medical checkups every year. But I knew a lot of information by then. It's just before I quit the phone company. So the medical doctor said, oh, let me look at your lab results. Oh, your lab results here show you have low blood pressure. So we're going to have to get you on a medication for your low blood pressure. I said, can I see that? Like, you want to see it? Okay. So she showed me. I go, oh, no, that's normal blood pressure. She goes, no, you see where that flag is low, the L means low. It's out of range. I said, yeah, but that's a range for the average individual that eats the average diet. I don't eat the average diet. I eat the diet that we're designed to eat. And she was like, say what? What's that?
Oh, that's way left.
What are you talking about? I said, yeah, we're designed for fruits, basically fruits and a little bit of greens. And so that's what I eat. So that's really a normal, what you're looking at is a normal blood pressure for a human being. And she goes, well, I don't know. I said, Doc, look, I'll show you the test that you can do to see if somebody really has low blood pressure. I'll show you what it is. So I got out of my chair. I lied down on the floor. I relaxed for a few seconds. I said, now, Doc, make the sound of a doorbell. She goes, what? I said, this is the test. Believe me, you didn't learn this in medical school. She goes, no, I didn't. Make the sound of a doorbell. Ding dong. She goes like that, right? So I jump up to answer the door. And I said, now, I'm not getting lightheaded. Now, if you don't get lightheaded when your patient jumps up like that, they do not have low blood pressure, regardless of what that says. Because if I had low blood pressure, really low blood pressure that was too low, I'd get a little dizzy jumping up like that quickly. Now, if I did get dizzy, it could also be because of the adrenal glands are all worn out and there's not enough adrenaline to be pumped in. Because every time you stand up quickly, the gravity is pulling blood away from your brain, so your adrenal glands pump out a teeny tiny little half a drop of adrenaline to compensate for that, so you don't get lightheaded. Okay. But so I told her this, and she goes, "All right, you know about that, so maybe you do know what you're talking about, huh?"
Wow.
So she wanted to know more, and she said, "Do you have any literature?" And I gave her some of my articles. I hadn't written books yet. I said, "Here's my articles," and she really kept. We kept in touch. She went vegan. Now, and some of the, I don't know, I don't like to bring up gender issues, but it seems that the women doctors are more open-minded than the men doctors. And maybe that has something to do with some of those men doctors having way too much testosterone. I don't know.
Yeah, more ego, man. It's just more,
There it is.
Because you know what it is to go through 10 years of school, you did all that studying, you spent all that money, you paying off debt. That's kind of a hit. That's a real big hit. Because I have a friend here. He works in the emergency room. He prescribes medicine, and I told him about this stuff, and he was actually open to it. Usually, like you say, especially the brothers, it's kind of I understand, but they don't really be as open. It's kind of thing. Like, what the hell do you know? You're just reading shit online. You're just reading stuff online. So, Dawn, do you, as in your diet, do you do the mono fruit diet? Are you doing that or?
Well, again, I thought about because early on, I'm like, how do our closest cousins in the animal kingdom eat? I mean, what do they eat? Sure. Everyone's, thinking about, not everyone, but people think about, well, what do they eat? The closest one, the closest animal to us, which is not the chimpanzee, by the way. The closest animal to us, what do they eat? But I'm also looking at, well, how do they eat? They do eat more than one thing. They don't just eat one food like a koala. Koala bear eats just one food, that leaf. That's it. That's all. His diet is just that one singular leaf. So he's a univore, so to speak. But these other primates that are closest to us, they eat various foods. Do they gather them up and eat them at the same time, or what do they do? No, man, they don't make meals. They don't know breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They eat when they're hungry, and they don't eat when they're not hungry. They don't eat in whole numbers. These were my observations. You watch a gorilla eating bananas. Never eats in whole numbers. He eats 3 bananas, 4 bananas, 7 bananas. No, he eats 3.5, 4 1/4, 7 1/3. They always stop at some point and why did he stop? Did the director of the documentary said, okay, now Mr. Gorilla, put the banana down? And the gorilla's like, oh, I'm not finished yet. No, they eat when their brain says, okay, that's enough. So they don't eat in whole numbers. When we eat bananas or anything, strawberries, do we eat in whole numbers? Hell yeah, all the time. We eat in whole numbers. Because why? I don't know. We're just trained to eat in whole numbers. Finish everything on your plate, right? My mom used to tell me, you will finish everything on your plate. There are people starving in other countries. I said, can we ship this to them? And then she smacked me and,
Right.
So we're just trained to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But that's why I tell people, get those words out of your diet, out of your vocabulary. Forget about breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So, because people used to ask me, what do you have for breakfast? And I say, I never eat breakfast. Oh, okay. Okay. What do you have for lunch? So I never eat lunch. Oh, you're one of those people who eat one meal a day. All right. So what do you have for dinner? So I never eat dinner. Oh, you call it supper? Nope. Well, are you breatharian, man? What do you eat it all? I said, oh, I'm eating all the time. I just don't give my meals names. Then I ask him, when you go to the bathroom, do you give that a name? When you go in the morning versus when you go in the afternoon, do you give it two different names, or do you call each one bathroom? I don't get it. You know, why do we got to give different names to things like that? So if you're going to call the first meal of the day breakfast, well, then when are you going to eat it? You're going to eat it in the morning because that's when everyone eats breakfast. Who eats breakfast at 1 in the afternoon? But if that's when you're first hungry, well, so don't name your meals. Well, I skipped breakfast. I went right to lunch. No, because when do you eat lunch? Look, when I used to work at the phone company, everybody had to eat lunch at 12 o'clock, 12 to 1.
Yeah.
That was lunchtime. You couldn't eat before and you couldn't eat after. But after I started getting more in touch with my body and realizing I need to respect my body more. And what if I'm not hungry at 12 o'clock? What if I'm hungry at 2 o'clock? This ain't working out for me, but I'm not going to quit my job. It was a great job. So I got a note from a doctor. I went to my boss first and said, listen, boss, can I work through lunch from 12 to 1? And then, you know, because I'm not hungry yet. I call him up, you know, and he goes, no, everyone lunch 12 to 1. So he goes, you get me a note from a doctor and then you can eat whenever you want. And he was kidding. You know, he didn't think I would. I did. I get him a note from a doctor. It said, Don Bennett needs to eat when he's hungry and not eat when he's not hungry for health reasons.
Right.
Well, he gave it. They called to check that it's a real doctor. He gave it to his boss. His boss gave it to his boss. So I was the only one in the phone company that was allowed to eat whenever I wanted to for medical reasons. Now, I didn't say for medical reasons. I said for health reasons. That's what the letter said. But they were all saying, you know, Don's got a medical issue, some kind of weird ass medical issue. He has to eat only when he's hungry, and he's not supposed to eat when he's not hungry. And it was like, oh, Don, I feel so bad for you, man. I'm like, why? Come on, think about it, man. So that was it. So once I started doing that, it was better, you know, eating when you're hungry. And most people don't even know what hunger is. I get this all the time.
Not true hunger. No.
They don't know what it is. Last night I was out with some friends and I asked one of them, I said, kind of new to this, you know, just getting involved in it. I said, take your hand, put it on the part of your body where you feel hunger. And, you know, it goes right down to the stomach. That's where it goes for 99.9% of the people, right? Right down to the stomach. I said, that's not where you feel hunger. That's either indigestion or the stomach doing some cleansing. That growling, a true hunger is silent. True hunger doesn't make any noise. And I say, when you get thirsty, show me where you get thirsty. And people were like, well, kind of up here, I guess. Yeah, that's where you feel hunger too. And they're both silent. They don't make any noise. No one can put their ear to your body and tell if you're hungry.
Absolutely.
Well, wait a second. If they're both felt in the same area and they're both silent, how do I know if I'm hungry or thirsty? Like, good question. See, now you're thinking, good question. Hunger is always pleasant when you feel it up here. True hunger. It's always pleasant because I want to do something pleasurable and there's no person of the opposite sex around, so I can't have sex, so I'm going to eat. That's basically what's going on. I'm going to go eat.
That's it.
I'm going to go eat and it's going to be pleasure.
Pleasure.
Because no one's going to eat unpleasurable food. I mean, unless you're stuck in the hospital and that's all there is to eat, in which case I would fast. But anyway, but when you're thirsty, thirst is never described as pleasurable. It can never be described as pleasurable.
That's true.
And if it gets bad enough, it's like, it's got an immediacy to it and it'll furrow your eyebrows and you'll be like, oh man, I need some water. Yeah, I need some water. So thirst is always water. That's what thirst is. It whispers water. Now, if you don't pay attention, that whispering is going to get a lot louder. So it's different than hunger. So even though it's felt in the same place, it's two different feelings, just like you can have two different emotions coming from the same brain. So once I start helping my clients learn what true hunger is and wait for it, you know, like Radar on that TV show MASH, wait for it. Just wait for true hunger. Because if you're always eating, think about this, Mark, if you're always eating before you get hungry, well, how does your body let you know that it wants you to fast? It takes away your appetite, so you're not hungry. But if you're always eating ahead of hungry, how do you know when your body wants you to fast and, you know, not eat for a day or 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 days because you're dealing with something? And your body just detected a few small cells now that are getting out of hand. And in other words, you're going to get a diagnosis of cancer in 30 years if it doesn't get its ass on that right then and there. So it needs some extra nervous system energy, otherwise known as nerve energy. It needs some extra of that. So it just doesn't want you to eat for a day, maybe 2, or maybe 3, because it needs that extra energy that digestion normally takes, which is a lot. Digestion is the most energy intensive process the body has. So it's like, okay, you're not going to die not eating for a few days. And, you know, Harry, you're going to lose a few pounds. You can afford to. Don't worry about it. Not even a few pounds for a few days. But so you just wait for hunger. So nowadays I can do that. So there's been times I haven't been hungry for 7 days. There was a time I wasn't hungry for 21 days and a time I wasn't hungry for 24 days. I just waited till hunger came back. I can do that now that I'm healthy. And that's what we used to be able to do 100,000 years ago. That's what all other animals can do today that live in the wild.
Right.
Or even domesticated animals. You can put the dog food out for the dog, and the dog normally rah, 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 eats that dog food up, man. He'd eat as much as you could put in that plate. But there's some, maybe once every couple of years, you put the dog food out and he's not eating it. Where is he? Oh, there he is. He sees the food's there. No, he's just going over in the corner and just lying down.
Yeah,
He's sick. He's sick. He's just fasting. He knows what to do. He's not hungry. That's it. So people who say, well, that's crazy. You can eat when you're sick. I said, all right, let's say you're running 105 fever. I mean, you got something serious. You're close to dying. You got 105 fever. You're not hungry. You're definitely not hungry. There's no way. It's impossible. What happens if you eat something? Comes right back up. And people say, well, yeah, that is true. You're running 105 fever. You're definitely not hungry. You definitely don't want food. And if you do eat, you do throw it right back up. I said, do you know why? Because at that point, your body will not tolerate doing any digestion. If it starts to digest that food, which you would have to, it can't just let it sit there because the food would rot. And now it's just going to make matters worse for you. Right. So the body's like, I can't start digesting it because that requires nerve energy. And right now I'm taking all the nervous system energy I can, and I'm dealing with this pathogen, this, Covfefe virus, whatever it is, right? I'm dealing with this virus. So I'm not going to tolerate any food, and it throws right back out. That's why that mechanism happens. So if you're just dealing with a cold, which isn't life-threatening, all right, there it won't throw the food right back out. It'll allow you to keep it in.
Thank you.
I don't know. Did I wave in the right direction? On camera? I don't know.
No, they that way.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, got to print out. I'm actually going to print out some books for my father. He's interested in this stuff, so he gave me some money to print out some books and stuff like that.
Where does your dad live?
We're here in Freeport, Grand Bahama. We right next to Florida, man.
Okay, so I can mail him a copy of my book.
Yeah. Oh man. Hey, you mail that, I'll print it out.
No, you don't want to print out something like that because it's got a lot of diagrams in it that really need to look good. So I'll send him a copy of the paperback version.
Oh, the paperback. Okay.
Unless he wants the e-version. I don't know. Your dad might be into ebooks. I don't know.
No, not at all.
Oh, no. Yeah.
I just thought that you would have sent the ebook and then I was just going to the print shop to print it out.
No. You want the nice cover. I spent all that time designing that. No, you get the book. Yeah.
Okay. That would be amazing, man. Like I say, he's 80 years old and he actually kind of said, okay, I getting up in age now, loves chocolate. He just can't. He loves it too much. But
well, look, if that's the worst thing he does, if he does everything else great, if he eats a fruit-based diet and greens and he doesn't eat any cooked food, you let him have his chocolate. He's 80 years old.
That's what I was thinking. I tell him, look, man, but no, he want to, he let him go of the breads and stuff and all that. Get him more. He actually bought a bunch of fruits yesterday.
Oh, okay.
First time that, he really get into it, So
and do you get any of the really good fruits, the ones that are really designed to eat, like mamey?
That's what I was going to ask you next on the fruits, because I told him the berries and stuff, like the raspberries, the blackberries and stuff, blueberries, we kind of have a small selection here in Freeport. The hurricane that just came, you don't have a lot of local foods at the moment. So a lot of it is imported, but Dawn, what is the really, would you say, fruits to stay away from if there is any, right? And then fruits that would complement him on this path.
All right. Well, first, the definition of a fruit is anything that has seeds in it.
Yes.
So, or on it, like strawberry is the only fruit that has the seeds on the outside, but all of the fruits, the seeds are on the inside. So cucumber is technically a fruit. Tomato is technically a fruit. But some fruits are tropical fruits. And some fruits are what they call New World fruits or temperate zone fruits. So here in the United States, in a lot of places up north ways, we got a lot of temperate zone fruits. the apples, the pears, the berries, the grapes, they grow here. And they're great, assuming they're grown in, let's assume for the moment they're grown in great soil. Okay, so they're great, but they're not, you can't live on them because it's not enough fat. Now, there's some animals who can live on those fruits, but for human beings, no, we evolved needing a little bit more fat than what they can provide. So you have to have some fat in your diet beside the berries and the grapes and the apples and the pears. So some people, when they hear that a fruit-based diet is good for them, and they just say, okay, I'm just going to eat fruit. So they buy the fruit that they see in the store, the fruit that's delicious, which is what we should do, and they don't buy the avocado because if you peel an avocado and just bite into it, it's not really delicious. It's very, very fatty.
No,
it's not delicious. So they said, okay, I'm just going to eat the delicious fruits, the sweet fruits. Well, that's great, but the sweet fruits that you get up north are not the sweet fruits that you'd get in the tropics, like the mamey and the durian and the black sapote, and ugh, my mouth is watering just from talking about them. They're fattier than the temperate zone fruits like the apples and the berries and the grapes. So there's nothing wrong with eating the temperate zone fruits. It's just you got to be aware that they're not going to provide enough of the essential fatty acids. So people go, gotcha, and they hear that and they go, okay, so I'm going to add avocado into my diet. That'll cover me on the fat. Well, no, you can't just assume that whatever's sold in the produce department of your food market is what we're designed to eat. It doesn't work that way.
Yes,
it's just what's been commercialized and what grows, what they grow to put into the stores. If you try subsisting on avocado for your fat, and believe me, it is a healthy fat in a way, but it isn't. Avocado is not a tropical fruit. Again, it's a new world fruit. So anytime something's a new world fruit, you have to be skeptical of it and say, are there any reasons I shouldn't be eating this fruit because it is a new world fruit? So it's apples. No, I can eat apples. I can eat pears, but it doesn't have enough fat. Avocado, well, it has a lot of fat, and I do like it. I mix it, make guacamole, whatever. But when you get into the weeds of it, you realize that there's omega-3s and omega-6s. You've heard about those, right? I mean, you got to have a balance of omega-3s and omega-6s. You don't want way more 6s than 3s.
Yes.
So what do mainstream? Normal is 1-to-1 relationship of 3s to 6s. That's like the best, optimal. 1-to-1 relationship of omega-3s to omega-6s. What do mainstream nutritionists recommend? Well, don't go any higher than 4-to-1, with 4 being the omega-6s. So you 4 times the amount of omega-6s than omega-3. Don't go any higher than that. Well, what's an avocado? 17-to-1 in favor of the omega-6s. Well, that's not good.
Okay.
Because you could eat in such a way when you're eating avocado, so the amount of omega-3s you're taking in is exactly what your body needs. Very close. So that's cool. But you're taking in so many omega-6s more than that, and it's the same enzyme used to process both, so that due to competitive inhibition, not all of those omega-3s that you took in got utilized. So even though you took in enough for the body, not enough got utilized, made available to the body. See what I'm saying? So you can literally have an omega-3 insufficiency, even though you're technically taking in just the right amount of it, only because you're overtaking in the omega-6. That's why once I realized this, I'm like, whoa, backing off from the avocado. I'm eating way too much. I'm just going to eat it sparingly. And you know what? Very difficult to do because it's good. I love it. Okay, no more. So I just stopped eating avocado. That was easiest for me. But if you can manage to eat it sparingly and understand why you're doing that, so that you don't end up with an omega-3 insufficiency because you have too much of the omega-6s, that's fine. You can have some avocado, but just like a good tip is never eat a whole avocado. Certainly never eat more than one at a sitting, and never eat a whole one. Force yourself to eat something less than a whole avocado. And if you're forced to do that and you're just eating it, you might start to get in tune with your body, and your body's like, oh, that's enough. Because I see a lot of partially eaten avocados on farms that sell, farm to table stuff, where the animals got to it. The animals don't eat the whole avocado. Again, all their animals don't eat in whole numbers, and we shouldn't really be eating in whole numbers either. But so people say, well, wait a second, if I can't use avocado, how can I get enough of the proper amount of omega-3 and omega-6s? Let's say I just forget about the avocado. Is there another way to do it besides moving to the tropics and eating the durian and the black sapote and the mamey and all that stuff? I said, yeah, there's ways to, just like you can use a phototherapy device to mimic the wavelength of the sun when you're living someplace up north where the sun isn't strong enough. There are things you can do. There are things you can do to compensate for everything. So if you're living up north, you make a banana smoothie, and you just put equal amounts of hemp seeds and chia seeds in the banana smoothie. Let's say a tablespoon of both, because one is 4-to-1 and one is 1-to-4 with the omega-3s and 6s.
Right.
So you put an equal amount of both in, tablespoon of both or a teaspoon of both, boom. Now you got a 1-to-1 relationship of ratio of the omega-3s to 6s and a banana. And people say, well, wait a second, banana is sweet and you're putting fat because the seeds have that fat in them. And they say sweet and fat. Didn't I remember from food combining, not a good combination, sweet and fat?
Right.
I'm like, yeah, if you eat them separately, like if you're eating banana, take bite out, eat a banana or two, then you go eat some avocado. Well, that's not a good combination. Or eat some watermelon, eat some avocado. That's not a good combination. But if you put it all into the blender, even though you're putting in 2 or 3 or 4 things, your body's like, oh, what's this one thing that he's eating? He's eating one thing. Let me check out what this is. Here comes the first mouthful. I see what it is. I know what I have to make in the stomach for this one thing that his entire meal consists of. So in that respect, yeah, that's a mono meal. That's a meal of just one thing. So I prefer to eat just one thing, just because now I can eat 2 different types of oranges because they'll digest about the same. They'll require the same digestive environment. The benefit, you asked me about mono meals. So the answer to that is basically the benefit of a mono meal, it's just way easier to digest than something with a lot of different things, unless you put them all through a blender. But if you're eating them all separately and you eat thing A first, then you eat thing B. Like if you eat watermelon, then you eat some almonds, you go right to the phone and call the ambulance because you're going to need one. All right, that's not, but you probably could put watermelon and almonds in the blender and blend it into something. I don't know what the heck you'd call that, but it wouldn't give you the same digestive issue.
Okay, I saw that before where when you blend it together, it kind of defies the laws in a sense where
you're just making a new thing. Like people say, well, no, but sweet and fat can't do it. I said, well, what is durian? Durian is creamy and it's fatty and it's also sweet in the same package from nature. So as long as it's in the same package, that's fine. Now, but durian is delicious. Try to eat an avocado. No, it's not delicious because it's way too much in fat and way too low in carbohydrates. It's kind of almost the opposite of durian. That's why durian is delicious and we just love it and covet it. But no, you can't really say the same thing about eating an avocado. You got to be mixing that stuff with salsa and pico de whatevers, and you got to make a guacamole or something out of avocado usually. So there's a science to being able to thrive in the modern world where we're not meant to live, where we're no longer living in our biological, eco niche where we developed originally. So there's a science to how to do it. They're the tricks, the hacks, if you will, life hacks to be able to live. So
this is important.
You got the light device for the vitamin D. You could do the iodine because there's no more iodine in the foods you're eating.
But you said iodine you would have to, that's more complex, you said, right? And
well, yeah. You definitely either do a ton of research on your own and be aware that there's a lot of misinformation out there. So don't just accept the first information that you research as being correct, even though it's coming from a whole bunch of well-meaning, well-intentioned people on an iodine group on a social media thing, right? So just, in other words, my recommendation is, since there's correct iodine information out there and incorrect iodine information out there, when you do your research, keep researching until you find contradictory information. If you're not finding contradictory information, if it's all saying the same thing, you don't know if that's the right information or the wrong information. See what I'm saying? So since there is contradictory information, keep researching and looking for stuff until you find the contradictory information and then say, oh, okay. Then now you got to figure out which one is the correct and which one is the incorrect. That's always not so easy. That's what took me years to work on before I started counseling people on iodine. You can cut through a lot of that if you just deal with an iodine literate practitioner. There are some who charge a lot of money to do that, and I don't think they should charge that much because of how important iodine is, especially nowadays with the COVID-19 virus out there. My rates are very reasonable. I don't want to sound like I'm marketing, but again, I would have written an iodine white paper, so to speak, put it on for free, and people could do it on their own like I did for D and B12. So I didn't really start doing the counseling on the nutrition stuff until it had to be iodine. Before that was just diet counseling and more coaching. But then I had to do the counseling once I realized how important iodine was. And people were just, look, I thought I was fine because I was eating a lot of dulse. I was putting dulse on my greens, and I even mixed dulse in with some fruits to get iodine. I assumed I was getting it because seaweeds, I heard, contained iodine. Well, I heard right. They do until you dry them, because iodine is not a mineral. It's not a vitamin. It's an element. Ooh, plays by different rules. So iodine evaporates pretty quickly. It's called sublimation. It goes from a solid to a gas, no liquid state. What? And I'm like, what? So when you dry kelp and dulse and all the sea vegetables, the wave goodbye, you buy a box of iodized table salt and you leave it open in a warm room. If you can see the iodine coming out through the nozzle, through the spout, you lose it. They tell you, keep it closed in a cool, dry place. That's why they tell you to do that. I mean, why would you have to do that for salt? You wouldn't just for salt, but for salt that has iodine in it, yeah, now you got to do that to keep the iodine in the box. So there's a lot to know about it. So when I tested my iodine level, just to be sure I was okay, expecting it to be good, on a scale of 1 to 100, it should have been between 90 and 100. It was like 42. I'm like, what? I'm eating all this dulse. And that's when I started researching the chemistry of it and like, oh, I see. So unless you're eating fresh dulse or fresh kelp or whatever, like, look,
right from the source.
Who eats the most seaweed? Japanese people. Who has the least highest rate of breast cancer? Japanese women. There's a correlation there because iodine is anti-tumor, it's antiviral, it's antibacterial, it's antiparasitic, it's antimicrobial. Not in and of itself, it's what the organs of the body require to give you those properties, to be anti-tumor. Like the thymus gland produces T killer cells. That's what deals with cancer cells. So if a couple of cancer cells start getting out of hand, they break, or one cell breaks. It always starts with, there's always one guy in the crowd, man. There's one cell that breaks and he starts dividing, not uncontrollably, because there is a way for the body to control it, but it starts dividing at an unnaturally high rate. And then those other cells keep doing that and doing that. And that's how you get a tumor over a 30-year period that endangers your life. But the body realizes it right away as soon as it happens. And it says, hey, ooh, alarm bells, beep, 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 beep. Thymus gland start making T killer cells to deal with it. And the thymus gland is, sorry, man, don't have enough iodine. First of all, that hog next to me, the thyroid is hogging most of it because it thinks it's like so big with its metabolism thing going on. It's got to give you the good metabolism. So there's not enough left. It's robbing Peter to pay Paul, basically. So now the thymus gland isn't getting as much as it should get because the thymus gland is hogging it. And so it can't put out the amount of T killer cells it needs. And now the person is adding insult to injury and eating foods with pesticides on, creating more of those single cancerous cells, which start to, and that's why we have cancer the way we have it today. It's like a double whammy, doing the things that cause it and not doing the things that our body needs to stay on top of it.
Stay on top. Wow. And so what is like, let's say someone's listening in, is there any reading material that or anywhere to direct them to an iodine, like just so they could get at least some good basic understanding, I guess, on, so I mean they can come to you for counseling, but you know.
Yeah, well, of course I got a great article on iodine. The only thing it lacks is how to deal with it in a DIY manner, in a do-it-yourself manner, because it's just too complex. People are getting into too much problems on their own. So they need to know to do thyroid testing first. They need to be able to understand what they're looking at with the thyroid test. They need to know to test for the two thyroid antibodies, because if they're high, there's something else you got to do. They need to make sure they got enough selenium. There's certain, every nutrient has cofactor nutrients. You know, even vitamin D. There's certain other nutrients that the body has to have enough of, so the vitamin D can be used, like magnesium and other, right. So if you don't have a certain one of that cofactor nutrient for iodine, now the body makes too much hydrogen peroxide. You tank your liver, you wind up in the hospital. So but there's an article that explains this and explains, because people say, well, Don, just tell me where to get the iodine. I'll get it and I'll just take it. Like, no, I wrote another article explaining why that's a bad idea. So that link to that is at the end of the first main iodine article, which gives you the history of iodine, what the doctors have done to us by no longer prescribing it, etc. So just go to my website / iodine.
All right. And another question, iron deficiency. What is it?
Well, look, there's a lot of misinformation about that.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know there's two types of iron. There's heme iron, which comes from animals, and there's non-heme iron, which can come from plants. and they're treated differently by the human body. So when you get tested for iron on a blood test in a lab, what do they know they're testing a population that gets heme iron, because that population is eating animal products. Okay.
Right.
That's what all the lab tests are based on. A population that eats animal products, because that's what the USDA recommends, eat from the four food groups. So that's what all the lab work is based on. So then you go and you're like, okay, I understand now, don't eat animals, bad for us, we're not even designed for it, let me eat a plant-based diet. Well, you're still getting iron, you're just getting a different kind of iron now. So now, but there isn't a second set of lab work. Like when you go to a lab to get tested, or a doctor, and you want lab work done, he doesn't first ask you, after saying, have a seat, he doesn't say, oh, are you a vegan or non-vegan? Because that's going to be which lab I send you to, or which tests I have you take. No, that doesn't happen. Maybe in 100 years, if we make it, maybe in 100 years they'll get around to that, but not today. So that's why when people who are vegans have lab work done, it goes, oh, look, my BUN is, I got a lot of L's on here, and I got a lot of L's. I was like, no. Like for my blood pressure, I told you about before, it's an L, it's low for average people, eating the standard American diet, eating animal products. But that's normal for you. That's okay for you, because the body deals with those two types of iron differently. Now, but again, iron has cofactors. So you can't just, like, if you're a woman and you're menstruating and you're going to lose some blood, and by the way, that's not even normal to lose a lot. That happens with mainstream people who are just getting their inside of their body so messy, and the body's like, okay, I may be getting ready to have a baby, I got to do some major house cleaning here. So there's a lot of bleeding going on once a month for those women. But when you get super healthy, when your body is super healthy, it doesn't need that much house cleaning. Even your own house, you keep your own house clean, you don't need to do that much house cleaning.
You don't know, it's not. So menstruation is like they said it's a hemorrhage.
Well, it's a cleansing process that the body goes on to do in preparation, either for making, it has to do with making the baby and having a healthy environment for the baby. It's complicated the way it works out and the timing and all that. But the bottom line is, that's what women, and a lot of vegans say, hey, I don't have my period anymore. Well, no, they're still ovulating, but they don't realize they're still having a period, but it's just not what they were used to. So right. It's not like they're no longer ovulating because now they're eating super unhealthy. They're not getting enough calories. Look, if you're not eating enough calories, you're not getting enough nutrition, and everything's way off. The body's like, okay, no ovulation now until you get your act together. But that's not usually what's happening. It's just that they're getting so much healthier. The monthly menstruation is nothing like what it was before. And some people can misconstrue this.
Yeah, and it makes sense how, because the woman eats flesh, if she does not have a menstruation, then that's a problem, where she, then maybe she won't get pregnant because the house cleaning ain't taking place the way it should be, compared to someone else, the woman that more on a fruitarian diet. And they also talked about how even penetration, sexual excitation as well, causes women to bleed more too. They talk. Right.
Look, all I know is that there's more miscarriages among women who eat the typical Western diet, who eat exactly what the FDA tells them to eat, or the USDA tells them to eat, than it is for vegan women and raw vegan women. Again, assuming you're eating a healthy diet and you're getting something like, you're adding the daily.
So you wouldn't talk about that, or is that what is
it's a green powder. I call it a supplement, and some people say, man, you have to stop calling it a supplement, because the word supplement has a bad rap. People don't like supplements. They think supplements are horrible. And I agree. I used to be an insider in the supplement industry, the manufacturing industry. 95% of what you're going to find on the shelves in a health food store is garbage. It's a waste of money. It's just giving you expensive urine. So that is true. That is fact. So what some people do is they transpose that. They say, okay, well, Don, but you're selling a supplement. But I thought you said most of the supplements are garbage. I think, yeah, most, not all. There's a small percentage of them that are actually very, at the other end of the spectrum, they're very beneficial, very helpful. So if I had a health food store, my supplement section would be about this wide. One shelf,
small,
this wide.
Right?
That's it. Not even this wide. I can probably get it even smaller, but that's not going to make me any money if I have a health food store.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so that's
what's the name of that? What's the name of that supplement you have again?
It's a green powder called DailyGreenBoost. So you just go to DailyGreenBoost.com, and obviously that's not an affiliate link. that what it is, it's a plant. So people say, all right, well, don't call it a supplement, call it something else. I'm like, oh, what am I going to call it? All right, it's a complement. It's meant to complement your diet.
Yeah.
It's a complement to your diet. It's something that compensates for the nutritionally subpar fruits and greens that you're getting from agri-industry.
Okay.
Really, it's subpar fruit. Look, what does agri-industry grow for? They grow for size. They grow for yield. They grow for appearance, pest resistance, shelf life, growth rate, sugar content. They grow for a lot of reasons, but they ain't growing for nutritional content. Why? Because they're growing for profit. If you're growing for profit, why bother to put nutrients back into the soil that the plants don't need to grow? So they very quickly figured out, well, what is the bare minimum that we got to put back in the soil to be able to grow crop after crop after crop after crop?
Yeah, they pimping it.
That's two nutrients, man. It's just phosphorus and potassium, and that's it. And nitrogen is the other one. So now we don't require nitrogen, but no vegans or raw vegans are walking around with a phosphorus or potassium deficiency, because that they are putting back in the soil. Because if they don't, they're not going to get crop after crop.
Okay.
They're not putting sodium back in the soil. They're certainly not putting iodine in the soil, like the chicken farmers add the iodine to the chicken feed for the sake of the chicken's health. No, the agri industry isn't putting that back into the soil. And some people say, well, wouldn't the government force them to do it? Please, don't make me laugh so hard. No. The government is not going to force them to put all the other nutrients that we need to have optimal health, because optimal health is bad for the economy. It really is. It's unfortunate. We got a situation today where optimal health for people would be very bad for the economy. Think about it. Tomorrow, Mark, nobody gets cancer anymore. Some magical thing happens. The sunspot comes out and does something where no one gets any cancer anymore. People be jumping out of windows because they'd be ruined financially, just like they jumped out of windows back in the 1930s when the stock market completely crashed.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate because of how much trillions of dollars are tied up in the cancer industry alone.
Oh, so, and they're giving so much people jobs. Like a lot of people feed their families because of this, man.
Right.
I was in Texas in Houston. You know, it was the big hospitals. I was doing some AC work when I was doing AC back in the day. And the whole town, I mean, like everyone's job was based on that. A lot of job was based on that, man. You know?
Right.
And question, Don, you never heard of Juice Plus?
Well, yes, believe me, when I went to research what was, because I look at it this way, of all the different things that you can add to the diet to compensate for the nutritionally poor foods that are being grown, one of them is going to be best. Logic just dictates that. So that's where I started from. One of these is best, and I've got like 30 here. I got to whittle this down to find which one is the best. And maybe I got to use two of them in order to get the best. So maybe I have to use two to have what's best for my body, but maybe hopefully one of them will be the best and give me everything. Well, it turns out that even the best, there's no way to combine them to get what we need. So I still have to do two supplements or two complements to the diet, DailyGreenBoost and iodine, because even DailyGreenBoost doesn't have enough iodine in it. And that's just because of how hard it is for iodine to stay in the soil. It won't stay there. It just wants to go like that. So that's the bare minimum of what people have to take. And some people, of course, have to take B12 also as a third one. I don't happen to. So this green product, people say, but it's a supplement. Supplements are bad. I don't want to eat lab made. This is not lab made. It's a plant. They take the plant, they cut it just the right time. They juice it.
So it's vine ripened.
It's ripened. You don't want to cut it too early because
Right, exactly.
The earlier you cut it, the less nutrients it's going to have. Because once you cut it, of course, nothing else is going to eat.
Is vine ripened, yeah.
Right. And you don't want to wait too late because it goes into something called the jointing stage, where now the nutrients are being used to make a flour or something. And no, you want the nutrients to stay in there. So they harvest it at just the right time. Then they juice it, because we're not designed to eat this particular plant. It's a grass. We're not designed to eat grass. So don't buy barley grass powder. That's very, very bad. But barley grass juice powder is a whole nother smoke. So they juice it, but it's not a liquid, it's a powder. Okay, now wait a second. People are like, they got to dry it. And this is where all things sometimes go south, right? When you start drying something. Yeah, if they use heat, that's not good. Heat can damage the vitamins. But if they use a cold CO2 drying process to evaporate out the liquid, which they do, okay, so there you go. So now it's got the nutrients intact. So that's it. So it's It's better than similar products. It's better than Juice Plus. If you want to do it in addition to Juice Plus, that's fine. But now you just might be throwing money away. So
it might be too, because the body only could use so much, eh? Like if you.
Well, and you bring up an excellent point. I'm just having this discussion the other day. People said, well, how do you know what enough is? You keep talking about this magic word enough, that we need enough. How do you know what enough is? I said, all right, let's just try logic. Something everybody at this table can do, logic. What are the 3 states of an amount? You either get exactly what you need for the day or the week or the month, less than what you need, or more than what you need. So I get everybody to agree on those 3 scenarios, right? Is there a fourth? Anybody? Fourth? No? Okay, so we got those 3. Do you think it's possible to eat in such a way, Mark, where you get exactly the right amount of calcium, exactly the right amount of magnesium, exactly the right amount of vitamin A that you need, no more, no less, but exactly the right amount for the day or the week or the month, wherever you want to slice it? It's impossible. There's no way to do that.
No.
You can't. So we eat a variety of foods so that we can get enough, but what is enough? So what's remaining as far as those choices? So we take out the exactly what we need scenario. So the only 2 scenarios left is for the body is you don't get enough of what it needs or you get more than what it needs. So I ask everybody at the table, which would the body pick? Well, obviously the body's going to pick it has to get more than what it needs. Okay, so obviously the body must have some kind of mechanism for getting rid of the excess that it doesn't need. It either store it, if there's room in the storage compartments, and once the storage compartments are full, okay, well now it just excretes it in your sweat, in your urine, in your feces, whatever, it's going to get rid of it. It's not a big deal. If you're eating natural foods. Now, if you got a bottle of vitamin D, yeah, it is possible to take so much vitamin D that you kill yourself. Because it can't get rid of the excess, because vitamin D is not a water soluble vitamin, it's a fat soluble vitamin. It's much more, so you got to be very careful. But believe me, the body lets you know if you're getting too much because it gives you a sunburn and you go, oh, I got to get out of the sun. So the body doesn't let you overdose on D from the sun, but it will let you overdose on D from a bottle because of your own ignorance about how much to take. Or actually, there was a time when the manufacturer put 10 times as much D in each capsule by mistake, and people were getting very, very sick and almost dying. But that's just a fault of the manufacturer, not the fault of the people. They were taking it according to label directions. But yeah, enough. So that's what's enough. So we need enough of all. My expression is enough of all. We need enough of all. I'm telling this to everybody. But we need enough of all to deal with the virus that's going around. We need enough of all to have the best cancer prevention in our bodies. But what is enough of all? And first of all, I have to define all. Well, all is all the nutrients our body requires for optimal health, which includes iodine. Okay, what's enough? We just described what enough is. It's more than enough. So enough enough means more than enough. That's right. When you think about it.
Because you can't measure exactly.
Right. There's no way. So you have to, and people say, well, I go by chronometer. You've heard of chronometer, right?
Chronometer.
Chronometer is it's an online software that you bring it up in your browser and you punch in what you ate for the day or the week, whatever, right? You punch it all in, how much you ate, and it'll tell you how many calories you got. Well, it's great for that. It's pretty accurate for the amount of calories you got. And sometimes that's good to know in the beginning. It might even give you the ratio of how much carbs to fat to protein. That's handy to know. That's really a good thing that it does. What it does very poorly is say, oh, you got enough calcium, you got enough magnesium. Well, how the hell does it know? I ask people that who rely on chronometer for no, I put everything I ate for the week into chronometer and I'm doing fine on all the nutrients. I'm like, well, how does it know? Did you take little samples of what you're eating and put it into a device that plugs into the USB port on the computer so the chronometer could sample that food to know exactly how much magnesium was in that food that you were eating? They're like, well, no, they have those things. I think, no, they don't have those things. It can't know. And well, maybe all spinach has the same amount of iron. Ooh, when they assayed spinach from all around the United States, some had a normal amount of iron, some had no iron. What? How can spinach have no iron? If it isn't in the soil, it ain't going to be in the spinach.
No, it ain't.
Oh,
obviously, that's where the DailyGreenBoost and you said you think that's more potent. It's better than Juice Plus, in your opinion.
Yeah. Well, not just. Again, yes, my objective opinion, yeah, because what are opinions based on? Either something subjective or,
No, this is
I want to feel, no, I do objective research. So when I wanted to have it tested by an independent lab, instead of just trusting what they said was on the bottle. And I do trust Don Weaver, but I asked Don, did you ever have it analyzed independently? He says, no. Well, I'm going to do that. So I did it with the person who started the company, because Daily Green Boost is actually a product called Just Barley. Just Barley is from the parent company that makes Just Barley. But if you, Mark, you went to them and say, hey, listen, could I have the Just Barley, and I'll call it Green Wonderfulness, and I'll make a label that says Green Wonderfulness, you know, Mark's Green Wonderfulness, but it'll be the same product. Would you bottle it for me and put my label and print the label on it? And they'll say, yeah, and they'll do it for you. And they'll charge you. And then you can sell it on your website or in your store or whatever. It's called private labeling. A lot of companies do this. So they would do this. So a client of mine who was helped by the Just Barley wanted to give back, very great guy. And he wanted to give back in some respect. It would take too long to learn what I've learned for him to be able to teach. So I said, I want to do something now. What can I do now? And we kind of came up with the idea that Just Barley is, Just Barley is very expensive, buying it in the store at Whole Foods, very expensive. They don't even fill the bottle up all the way. They fill it like halfway. That's one of the tricks they do.
Oh, my Lord.
You're getting a lot. Okay. You go, I'm going to see if I can private label that stuff. He knew about private labeling because he had worked at Whole Foods. I'm going to see if I can private label that stuff, and then I'll sell it, and I'll just sell it for like a 10% markup, something just above my cost, just a little bit, not like 100% markup like most people do. And then he told them, fill up the bottle more, put the packet in it. I want this. I want it to be this. Here's my label. And he started selling it. So I'm like, what a godsend this was, because it's almost half the price, same product, almost half the price as Just Barley. So this is what is Daily Green Boost. That's the history of Daily Green Boost. Okay. So it's my client that started to do this. And, of course, I always speak about it. And now that it's less expensive to do it, more people are doing it. So he's happy as a clam, man. He is happy as a pig in mud, because people are benefiting from this as he did. So that's the history of the product. You can read more about the history of the product and Jamie, the guy who started the company, on my website. Just go to the supplement section. Again, bad name for it, but that's what it is.
No, it's needed.
It supplements your diet. It's just it's one of the good supplements, not one of the bad supplements. That's the way I put it.
Okay, wow. And you said that you did get it tested. Y'all got it tested, and
oh yeah. So
and you tested Juice Plus too?
Well, now here's the thing.
Okay.
I did the testing along with Jamie, and it would cost a lot of money to do it. And we both agreed at the beginning, okay, what can we reveal about the testing to people online? Like not just to our close, intimate friends and family, but what can we put out there online? What can we say about what we're going to find out? This is before the testing started. And I said, well, we could get in a lot of hot water if Daily Green Boost comes out on top, if Just Barley comes out on top, which we expected it to, because we figured let's take the opportunity to test some other ones also, the competition, and see, what is in them and how it stacks up. Because if it's not the best one, let's now see if you can private label the best one. What is the best one? So let's do this objectively. But who are we going to share it with? How much can we share? Because we don't want to start getting sued, and things can happen. So right. We said, well, we could just say generally what the truth is, that it is the best out of all the ones tested, and there were a number of ones tested, but can we say the other ones that were tested? That's where the problem starts to work in. And he consulted with some legal beagles, and they're like, just say it's the best. If it turns out to be the best of everything you tested, and you tested a bunch of things, just try not to say, yeah, it was best compared to here. Give the people the information they can figure out how the different things are made, and then just leave it at that. So that's where we kind of left it, somewhere in the middle. So it's not that we're not talking about the testing at all. Of course we're going to, but believe me, we had a whole bunch of things tested, not for everything, because you can't test for every nutrient, because that would cost millions of dollars. So we tested for some key nutrients. I was curious about cobalt and selenium. Those are my must-have tests, and iodine must-have test. Although I knew what the answer, we kind of wasted our money on that one because I kind of knew what the answer was going to be. But I just wanted to know, so in case anyone said to me. And so first of all, what Daily Green Boost says is on the label, what they have on the label that it says it has in it, is definitely in it. So that's what the tests show. We can say that. What it says isn't in it, isn't in it. the harmful, heavy metals. We had to test it for heavy metals because it says, super, super, super low in heavy metals. Absolutely correct. Super low or no of certain heavy metals. So in other words, they're not lying what they say is on the label of the Just Barley, which is the same thing that's on the label of the Daily Green Boost. Where it came in with the competitors, when you also figure in price, because you got to figure in price too, Daily Green Boost comes out ahead in every category from all the products we tested. So I'll just say that if people want to do Juice Plus in addition to Daily Green Boost, no reason why not. There's nothing that would say, oh, no, you can't do those two things together, like with certain medications. No. There's no reason why not. But you might just be getting some excesses, so you're just kind of urinating them out, and the money might be better spent instead of on Juice Plus. It might be better spent on saving up for a really high quality phototherapy device, rebounder, Vitamix.
Yeah, Juice Plus pretty pricey, with it, it's like 75 or 100 a month.
I can say this, that Juice Plus is being marketed very differently than the Daily Green Boost.
And it's affiliate marketing with Juice Plus, so it's a lot.
Yeah, that's part of it too. In other words, I'll just use the word motivation. The motivation by the people who are at the top of the Juice Plus thing is very different than the motivation of the person that's at the top of the Daily Green Boost thing. It's just one guy, Jamie. So he's one guy. The reason he's doing what he's doing is very different than the reason the Juice Plus people are doing what they're. That's all I'll say about that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for this, Dawn. Really appreciate it. I more than likely, I was on my Juice Plus, but I, had some financial hardships the past year and a half trying to get my, I'm doing better now, but I wasn't able to keep up with it, and then they had the whole omega-3 acids, and then it's just, so I really appreciate it. I think I would love to get that Daily Green Boost. I'm going to show it to my father. I think it would really complement what he's trying to do now, really.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what you can do for you and the people watching your channel, watching this video, if you contact Jamie at dailygreenboost.com and say you saw, you heard about it from Don Bennett speaking on Mark's podcast, he'll give you a coupon. I think they call it a coupon code or some kind of code that you put in when you place your order, and you get 10% off. I don't remember what that code is, but he's got one, and he'll give it to you. Now, some companies would be like, Don, don't be giving out this code. Now they're going to all be wanting 10% off when they might have bought it without the 10% off. No, he's a giving kind of guy. He cares about. He came up with the code, so ask him for the code. So you get 10% off, and then if you put it on, I'm trying to figure out how it can be as cheap as possible, as inexpensive as possible. If you put it on auto ship of 4 bottles a month, I think you get an additional discount. And the only reason I say that is most people who use it, if you use it the way it's supposed to be used, which is continuously, you're not just going to use it to heal an illness and then never use it again. It's supposed to be part of your diet. If you use it the way I recommend it, which is approximately 2 heaping tablespoons a day in a smoothie, let's say, that's about 4 bottles a month. So that's why he came up with the 4 bottles a month auto ship program. If you just automatically order 4 bottles a month, you get, I think it's an additional discount. So, and between those two discounts, well, there goes his profit margin completely. So now he's basically selling it to you at cost, but he's not in this to make money. He's doing what he's doing for the same reason I'm doing.
Like you said, he wanted
to help people. Yes.
Right, because he said it'll take so long to learn what you know, and he said I just want to do something so that I listen, and I love the energy behind it. I even think the energy behind it can be healing as well. But so, okay, definitely I'll do that. I'll go to the website and I'll mention him. I'll mention that we had a talk. And Dawn, I feel like we could go on for hours. We got to have a part 2. This was very enlightening for me personally, and I know the listeners are going to really appreciate it because we do have a lot of trolls on the raw vegan. I mean, heavy, brother, heavy, going hard. So just to hear a veteran come and speak this wealth of knowledge from, and it's just amazing because you got to be and I can say this to millennials, even in my age, y'all got to be careful with trying to teach too early. You know, you got to take some time, apply it to yourself, heal yourself, and make sure you're not teaching, you know, the stuff that's really incorrect, you know, because sometimes we get so, we get so passionate about it, and, you know, you just want to run and tell everybody, which is, that's what I am like, when I was like 10 years ago, I always did that. So I said, no, let me be quiet, shut up, and really just get to know and do my studies and stuff like that. So definitely, Dawn, I really appreciate this time with you. I don't mean to call you an elder, but I give you that respect as an elder.
I'm a young at heart elder.
Yeah, you're young at heart. How old are you, man? I didn't want to ask. I'm sorry.
I am.
You have to think.
Wait, don't tell me. 65.
65. Okay.
Yeah, the numbers really don't mean anything.
I know it don't mean
it's all relative. There are 65-year-olds out there who are definitely not in great shape. I'm running around and people don't believe me when I tell them I'm 65. I mean, still got all this. This is not a wig.
Yeah. You didn't get a hair transplant.
No. I figure if I still have it, while I still have it, flaunt it.
Right. Oh, Lord. All right, man. So anyway, Mr. Bennett, to all the listeners out there, this is the Alkalise to Realize talk show. We really had a great talk. I'm sure this is going to put a lot of perspective into the raw vegan movement. Please go to your website, Mr. Bennett, is
health101.org.
Okay, health101.org. Read his articles, get his books. I get in his books. And we got to keep leveling up. We got to keep leveling up. So much respect to you, sir. You have a wonderful day.
No, you too, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it.
We alkalize to realize the body is the temple, water is the source of life. We breathe in life and then we synthesize. This liquid sun will free your glands and begin to decalcify. Peer through your third eye, see through the lies and give your body what it's missing. We dehydrated, and that's the human condition. But when you clean the body and believe the body, you set yourself up to receive the body. See, it's a sharp knife, that's the water of life. It's like a sword cutting parasites down the sides. It takes a certain kind of faith to know that you're divine. And if it comes from urethra, then it's alkaline. We serve in truth, and it don't matter how weird it really gets. It's the linchpin ascended masters to initiates. We alkalize to realize. Open your mind and find you had it inside this whole damn time. We alkalize to realize. Open your mind and find you had it inside this whole damn time. You had it inside this whole damn time.